if people are trusting you on the platform, it's a good achievement.
Sub 1%.
Because trust is the biggest factor in real estate, and if you have created that over a period of last 4-5 years, nothing like it. Could you walk us through the journey?
We had one name in between called Yard Square.
Okay.
We started as that. Now that I have regulations, why you want to
do that? Hey Sudharshan, most of us, we all know that you have specialized on real estate investment. You have practiced real estate law. Tell us something what we are not aware about. On your personal level, could be the kind of interest other than these two aspects.
So the whole journey started, at least from a Strata standpoint, was some element of law. I don't know how many people know this, but when I used to practice, litigation was a core part of the work, apart from corporate mergers and acquisitions. And we've seen brothers, many times brothers, unfortunately.
Family members, most
family
of the
members.
time.
I mean, predominantly brothers, unfortunately, the cases I handled with, where inheritance issues were a large thing, right? Like, let's say there was a lack of a will, or in general just clarity, no clarity around who owns what, right? And ego comes in between or whatever it is, right? So the learning from that, the entire thing was, if there are frameworks rolled out before, crystal clear, I think that has a huge impact to ensure that these litigations, which are about 70-80% of all cases in India are real estate linked, right, can be solved to some extent. That was number one, right? So one thing which has happened and I've ensured people do, and I'm a very pro, and I keep promoting people having their wills made very early on. I have a will made for myself already. Anything can happen to anybody at any point of time. So it's always clear to have crystal clear, so that at least financial reasons people are not fighting, right? So Strata genesis was predominantly that, okay, when we're doing something and there are so many people who don't know each other, when brothers are fighting, then outsiders will fight even more, or strangers will fight even further, right? So preparing the framework was something, and it goes to my legal career because it's part of policy making.
Okay.
With on startup policy, drone policy, and bunch of certain policies as such, where there is this working group committees which work with the government to create these policies. So always realize how frameworks are rolled out, right? So that was definitely one great way we did, and eventually things worked out.
So I'm sure, people would understand and feel the importance of the will today, as you rightly mentioned. Now, Strata is there in the market for a couple of years. Can you tell us, Strata as a name, how did it, evolve, or how did it come to your mind?
So, Strata in simple real estate world means owning a floor of a large building, right? Or in general parlance, what people use is a strata of a society, which means you're dissecting a particular section, society, whatever it is for the matter. So our rationale and our relevance was towards the real estate, right? That strata owned buildings were a common thing. People own floors of multiple buildings, etc. Over the years, we've realized that the whole strata sold buildings were getting a bad name in terms, because again, lack of framework, where owners are not ready to spend money on upgrading, or not paying property taxes, or not paying common area maintenance, hence the building is getting dilapidated, XYZ, and everyone has their own reasoning and rationale around, hey, I don't want to pay because I'm not happy with what this is happening, or whatever, right? And always it happens in apartments also in a large way. But the idea was that, can we rebrand and revolutionize the whole strata sold buildings and get a new institutional approach to this, to what it was earlier, right? So that was the genesis of how the name Strata came in. That the word, which is probably not so, or rather abused in some sense in the real estate world, can we revolutionize and make it a brand, which I believe we are on par to do it, where people look up to Strata owned assets. Now the whole concept is that the strata owned floor is now a strata, which is us owned building comparatively as such, but that is the transition in which we've been possible to do.
But was it easy or difficult? Was this name already there before you started this, or once you decided I want to start something like this and then you started searching for a name?
No, so when we decided to start, always that's when you start hunting for a name,
Yes.
right? So there were multiple names we were dabbling around. The approach I had, and multiple of my core people who joined very early, and we didn't have a name that time, was we should have a 6 to 10 letter word at much. It should be spelled out on one breath. It cannot be two names as such. So, like how an Uber or a Zomato is, that's simple. One word you can call it. The idea was Strata was also as simple is what the logic was. We had one name in between called Yard Square.
Okay.
We started as that, कि कुछ नाम रखते हैं, whatever, and we
Okay.
started with Yard Square, only to realize that square yards will come after us.
I know, I'm sure.
As such, but again, the idea was we needed something to
Then
start
I'm
with.
sure you would have, I'm sure, sitting behind you or calling you saying, "Kya kar diya yaar aapne?"
But we obviously never used that name.
Okay.
The idea was till we had a name, let's get something on letterhead for the time being. We used that for 3 months, I guess, whatever, and then eventually.
Most of the times in real estate, there's a Vastu angle to a name or a product or whatever. Is there a Vastu angle to start?
Absolutely no logic
Okay.
on Vastu. Never believe in Vastu.
Okay.
Good time, bad time, all that is immaterial as
Okay.
such, because. And many of our investors also come tell us, register at a good time, it's okay, Vastu check kiya ki nahi, etc. I'm actually, while Vastu, etc., it's the tenant's problem, the developer's problem, because they would have done all that checks. I'm just coming as the last stakeholder to come and buy. Having said that, we feel this good time, bad time, it can have an impact on investment. I said I have 4,000 people invested.
Correct.
There's some good luck of somebody might rub on you, so don't worry, irrespectively, just go.
I mean, you can't cater to each and every person's need, when you're
we are
creating something large.
kind
like
of
this.
non-emotional to real estate investing, and which is unfortunately in India completely an emotional investing as such. We look at it purely from a finance angle rather
Very
than
nice.
anything else. Yes, sellers follow good time, bad time, so we automatically follow good time, bad time, because they're like, we don't want to sell because that money is going to come and we want to follow. Pitra Paksha was there.
I know.
So they're like, we don't want to register.
At least I think about in a year, whatever real estate I have seen, at least 3 to 4 months in a year are days where people don't want to do transactions.
So automatically, whether we want to follow good time, bad time, and all these things, it's a part of practice where we automatically follow.
Anyway, exploring the origins of fractional ownership. While the market already had AIFs, REITs, InvITs, what was the core motivation behind creating fractional ownership with Strata?
So let me take AIFs and REITs both as two products earlier. So AIFs in India were, at least the domestic AIFs, predominantly were all credit funds.
Yes.
There were hardly any funds which are these rent yielding funds that, okay, you invest and I keep generating rents and I keep distributing. There are barely one or two as such. And from an real estate AIF AUM to the rent generating AIF AUM, it was like 0.1 to 99.9.
A huge gap.
Huge gap. So it goes back to one of my learnings which I had from my father very early on from business standpoint. So he was a pro believer of creating rental income for ourselves, for family in general. Like business can go up and down, whatever. Rental income is always good because it's backed by asset. Real estate will always appreciate. And he built his entire 2000 till 2014-15 focused on creating this rental income portfolio for himself, right? And obviously, family limited capital, you can't scale. We don't leverage, so you can only pull in with whatever you can. So you can have a limited scale to what you can do. But that was the idea that people love rental income, and because I could see everybody around me getting, I get fixed rental, and it can be an apartment rental for that matter.
Yes.
Or a commercial rent, warehouse rent, whatever it is for that matter. So the idea was more around that India lacks this rental income product. Can we create? What is AIF? AIF is nothing but democratizing, saying that, okay, you don't have 100 crores, but if you can put 1 crore, 100 people, we can go and fund a particular project and generate returns out of it. Yes. As such, so we felt that can we do a similar thing in the whole commercial real estate space and generate rental income for investors. So that was the thesis. Again, going back that a person might have limited capital, he cannot invest into everything. And I've seen, right, when my dad has some shops in a market, People sometimes pay in cash, sometimes don't pay for six months also.
Yes.
All sorts of issues, and the properties are predominantly not in the best of conditions. You don't have the best of clients, etc.
Yes.
So the idea was more around that. Okay, can we do for larger buildings what AIFs in credit did? Can we do for rental? As such? That was the one learnings which we had. Second, on the whole REIT piece, which we realized there were two reasons why we felt that there is a play for us in the market despite REIT being there. One is that a REIT is like a mutual fund. You have all the properties, good, bad, whatever, which the developer thinks he can just stick it to the retail investors
Yes.
and get rid of it.
Right.
Is what everyone has done in the market. Good, bad properties are all part of the REIT market. There are hotels, solar assets, whatnot. People don't have complete clarity. While it's a great way to diversify portfolio as well, but sometimes people want to take a concentrated, like, hey, you know what, I want to own a BKC property, I want to stick there. I know from a return it might not be, but it's just aspirational for me to own a BKC building or a Nariman Point or whatever it is, right? So that was one. It was a mutual fund. In some sense, you don't have clarity. And second was my real thing in REITs, which we felt, because REITs are predominantly sponsored REITs where a developer is selling, so there's no alignment of interest because he'll take care of his interest and not your interest, number
Yes.
one, right? So that was what it is. And when the regulators, I believe, when they were rolling out this whole new concept of SM REITs, we felt that they've built this concept in general, right? So anyway, just going back, that was the approach that we said, that can we have alignment of interest because we are equivalent to you as an investor. We are going to a development buying, which means our interest and your interest is the same, and we want the best price to acquire, right? So that was the whole two thongs where we felt that REIT and AIFs, while they exist, there is a market for them. There is a significant market for creating something like this. It was very ambitious, to be very honest, when we started. We started in the pandemic and we said we'll sell real estate online. Nobody has done that significantly in India, at least for them. Globally, many people have done, but we felt it was ambitious. I think started off, it paved out eventually and became what it is right now.
Can you tell us few of the challenges you faced while creating this?
So challenges early on was obviously investor education, right? Because we were floating a company to buy a property. What is SPV, what is equity share, what is a CCD for that matter, because the investors we're talking to are predominantly 45 and above, right? 40, 45 and above as age, because they are the ones who already have their own house and are looking at more real estate exposure. Yes. So those people are probably not as savvy to know what a CCD is, because it's a very technical thing which probably these large funds adopt as instruments. So that was the first thing. Second was obviously selling online itself, like, hey, I haven't met you, you're expecting me to invest 50 lakhs, a crore, I have no idea whether you will take away the money and go,
whether you'll invest this in right property or no,
or what you're telling is going to be the same or not.
Because properties, predominantly real estate has been a touch and feel kind of a module. People want to see, visualize that and figure out the background of people, like companies which are there for last 20 years and things.
Yeah.
So you felt that was a challenge there.
It is not a challenge, it's the way people buy in India, right? This is the order of the day, this is how everything works.
But in last 4-5 years, have you seen a change in the mindset of people on
significantly? At least with us, I don't know about the same old real estate buying, has things changed there or not, but at least from our platform and for the brand we've been able to create, there has been a significant change. But initial hurdle was just educating the whole concept to people. That was the challenge. Many people thought we were a Ponzi scheme, God knows, etc., etc. So the bunch of these things, many thought your startup, you might shut down tomorrow, what happens to my money, and bunch of these things, right? So those are initial challenges which we had. This was on the investor side. On the seller side also, it was the same challenge.
Obviously,
so we were running two battles on a given time, that okay, why should I even, how can I trust you have the money or not? Show me the proof of funds if you have. You're saying I'll open a platform, I'll raise the money on the platform. Who are these people putting in money? As such, this was not just a challenge for seller. With my dad, when I started, like, who's going to give you money through an online platform without meeting you in general, right? So a seller also had a similar mindset to give, and then obviously there are other people here, like, why should I give you versus somebody else, right? That was.
So what was the one motivation when everyone were negative when you started this? What was that one motivation kept you, no, I can do this and I can move it to a next level?
See, honestly, it was just pure conviction, number one. Second, the entrepreneurship blood in it, that I want to figure out something which is there. Like, I was an entrepreneur before also. I mean, I used to
Okay.
run my own law firm. The reason why I decided to take switch and do something else, law had 2 3 inherent challenges. In a law firm, people want to work with you, not your brand, right? So if Sudarshan is in this firm, goes to another firm, clients will also move to another firm, right? So it's a very human, people centric, relationship driven, number one. Second, you don't make money when you're sleeping, because law is
You
about
don't.
billable hours. So if
Correct.
you're working, you're making money. If you're sleeping, you're not making
Not
money.
making money.
Third, which was there, is you can not implement technology in a large way. Now there are AI systems in some sense, but at least 5 years back when we decided to start Strata, there was a lack of technology, and I was fighting with multiple people to get technology in this segment, to a point where I met multiple judges, high court judges, chief justices for that matters. Can I digitize courts? Can I make recordings accessible and bunch of these things? People are like, don't waste your time, it's never going to happen, etc. It eventually happened thanks to pandemic, but probably I could have not made a monetization model out of it. But the idea was that these 3 things. So law lacked these 3 things because I couldn't clone myself. People want to work with me. You can't have billable hours. So the idea was to find something which was where a technology can be implemented, a brand can be built, and you can make money when you're sleeping, right? So these 3 genesis. Strata was, when this idea came, the thing was, yes, it's a check in this thing, and it is scalable, right? So the idea was more that, I want to do something which can be a large brand, a large company over a period of time. And in law, there was another inherent challenge, right? You cannot expect a senior guy to work for you. There is a different ego, unfortunately,
Correct.
which plays in this, which does not happen in real estate or in a startup environment. People are absolutely fine to work with young people, but unfortunately, in the legal career or in the legal fraternity, that's a little challenging aspect. Unless your father was a big lawyer and people are respecting
That
you for that.
legacy carries on and things
So
like
for a
that.
new person, that's a challenge, right? So that thing was going on, right? And I want to create something which is super scalable, super platforms. Like in law, when I'm 32 now, I quit law when I was 27, 28. I had represented close to 200, 300 companies, almost $1.5 billion worth of investments, which partners do and when they're 40. I had that fortunate, or my stars were lucky, whatever. I was able to create that establishment in just about 5 6 years of me running my firm in general, right? So the idea was just that I want to do something bigger. This is not challenging anymore. So it was more that challenge that law mein there was this, not boredom, but felt that there is a ceiling that I'm not able to scale that up beyond the point. And then Strata was something when we felt that there is a potential to scale. So yes, we've gone through days where it was a lot of trouble, a lot of pain, a lot of convincing, a lot of grilling, everything we had to go through. But we knew that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and we could actually hike the entire mountain and conquer it eventually, right? So that kept going on effectively as such.
Strata's role in pioneering SM REIT regulations. Strata was instrumental in pushing SEBI regulations on SM REITs. Could you walk us through the journey?
I think we were able to establish an industry, and gave a proof of concept that this is possible. Sellers are willing to come, investors are willing to come, while we are a marketplace in some sense. The idea was that we can create this model bigger for a regulator to consider regulating so early on in an industry when we are just too small and probably not even scratch the surface as such. Just shows leaps and bounds how regulators in India are today. We always hear these scams in India, right? Sahara scam, bunch of these scams.
Plenty of them.
Where it is probably lack of regulation because of which people could exploit the loophole as such. So a regulator thinking so proactively is talking about the new India which we are in today,
Yes.
which we only heard in the US or UK or Dubai or Singapore, Australian market at max, that they're proactive, trying to understand, okay, it's good, let's see, and with regulations we can probably help you escalate or scale up faster as such. So I feel this is the new India where we are seeing a regulator seeing that, okay, see, there are early signs this industry can grow. Let us regulate so that there's not one mishap which can scuttle the entire industry altogether, and then probably the regulations can help you scale this up much faster as such, right? So I would say while we are not the only reason the regulators thought, but I believe we've been some part of the confidence the regulator had, okay, let's regulate this industry as such. So part play as such is what I would give credit to myself, unless the SEBI gives a different larger credit for us.
No, I'm sure. I mean, all these smaller pieces gets added up. I mean, that fueled them saying that, yeah, there is a need and we should take that to a next level. So I'm sure you feel satisfied with that, whatever role you have played as a company.
More than satisfied, I think very happy. In the event 10 years down the line, if this industry becomes as big as mutual funds,
2030, they are predicting it to be a huge number game. You know?
So if that happens, then I'll always feel happy the fact that we've contributed something to nation building, if not for anything else.
Okay, now distinguishing SM REIT from traditional REITs. Okay, with SM REIT now officially recognized, how do you differ from existing REITs? What's the difference?
Simple, the most layman approach is you buying an HDFC stock directly versus you buying an HDFC stock via mutual fund.
Okay.
So as simple as that. So a larger REIT is a mutual fund, it's a bouquet of properties, good, bad, everything put together. In this also there can be good, bad, everything, but you are knowing about what you're investing into, knowing the nuances of the entire thing. So you consider the SM REIT equivalent to you directly investing and owning a piece of, let's say, a UBCT or a BKC building directly as such, vis-a-vis in a mutual fund where everything is part of the thing.
Correct.
There are pros and cons to both the pictures. So it's not that that product is superior, this product is superior, or this is inferior, this is inferior. Both have their own pros and cons for somebody to consider. But having said that, that is the core differentiation for a simple layman to understand. I own it directly, I know it, which building vis-a-vis in a traditional.
So he's very clear from day one saying what he's going to invest in.
Correct.
Right. Do you see SM REIT as a new opportunity in India?
Massively. I mean, from an opportunity standpoint, I think it can be larger than the traditional REITs in my view. Traditional REITs, like I said, are developers coming and liquidating their or divesting their stocks as such. It can be predominantly, let's say, the top 10% developers might have the capability and the bandwidth to do it. There's 90% of the others who probably don't have, and we are the partners ideally who can be for them to scale up. So is 90% bigger or 10% bigger? That's the thing, but the 10% own 50% market share, that's a different issue altogether. But all these people work in silos and not collectively. We are one person neutral to all. If you're a large developer, small or a mid developer, see, we are happy to partner with you all and probably be that institutional partner with you to build large portfolio over a period of time. So hence from that standpoint, I feel SM REITs can be significantly larger than the larger REITs.
And do you see a huge potentiality for investors to put money into tier 2 and tier 3 cities with this module?
Again, pros and cons of it. It's on your investment horizon, what you're looking at, or your perspective about tier 2 story in general. See, in the SM REITs, we're going to invest our own money as well, right? So unless I'm not convinced to put 5%, and it's a very large investment which we'll be making in all these deals going forward, it's very clear that if I'm not convinced, I'm not investing my money as well, right? So in tier 2 markets, there is a significant growth story, undoubtedly. But then again, it's for one to understand that am I interested to, let's say, invest in Ahmedabad or Jaipur or Lucknow market, because they'll say, like, for that making 2-3% more or 200-300 basis point more, why do I want to invest in that market? I have no idea about it.
Okay.
There are people who have significantly large exposure or perspective of that market. Like, where is the growth story in Bangalore anymore? It's already a saturated market. I'd rather
or an exploited market for that matter.
So each one's own, right? I mean, everyone has their own perspective. So many people, you can't really get a right or wrong answer. So it's all purely a personal choice what it is as such.
Do you see how would they provide a hedge against market volatility?
See, so simple approach which I take is two things, right? Inflation and market volatility, right? So inflation is, let's say, 6-7% in India. We'll get that covered with our rentals. So one is saying that, okay, I'd rather put that money in FD itself. Absolutely. I'll probably, as a product, what SM REIT is equivalent to your FD in some sense. But here's the kicker which SM REIT offers is the property appreciation which you can get on top, right? So from a market inflation standpoint, you're probably 2x better in an SM REIT vis-a-vis a fixed deposit today. Number one, but from a market volatility standpoint, see, these assets are, which will be listed on the exchange eventually, are effectively asset backed. Correct? So you will not see, okay, just because of World War III started in the world, if the stock market crashed 50%, you'll not see your real estate value crashing 50%. Probably a 25% hit can happen,
Yes.
or whatever it is for that matter, but it won't be 50% crashed overnight. The way stock markets sometimes react, real estate doesn't react exactly that same
So
way.
you mean to say it's more secured?
It is more stable,
Stable.
comparatively. Everything is secure in some sense, still the perception is secure.
I know.
But it is comparatively more stable as such, right? So just going to your point on that whole tier 2, tier 3, right? A very interesting point,
Okay.
which one
Would be
gentleman
very happy to know that.
told me, that India, as a country with 150, 140 crore people, we don't have even 10 mega cities today. Correct? Let's say a Bangalore, Pune, Bombay.
4, 5, 6 of them.
6
max.
at max, right? But there's, in a country with, and these people, these cities might have what, 2 crore people at max staying in there.
Yes,
Bangalore has
yes.
1.5, Bombay has probably 2 or
Yes.
2.5, whatever. Chennai is much lower, Hyderabad is much lower. Kolkata is, why is it a metro city with has such, but it's lesser number
population.
of people, population and growth comparatively as such. But having said that, the logic is, if India is going to go through that whole manufacturing boom and all that what has been spoken about and we hear in media as such, we should have at least 10 to 20 mega cities with 2 crore people staying.
Yes.
Right? So tier 2 story is significant, because Lucknow, for that matter, can be the hub for entire Uttar Pradesh, where people would come, and there will be 2 crore people staying in Lucknow, which is not the case today. Right?
Yes.
So if you're even 1% right from an assumption standpoint that this is there, you will make 2x to 3x guaranteed in that market. Right? So it's all about you wanting to take that call on that 1% hit rate as such from that perspective. Right? So in China, comparatively, there are 10, 20 mega cities, in fact beyond 20 mega
Yes.
cities with 2 crore people staying in that. So which means urbanization will happen. Bangalore cannot accommodate everybody. Pune cannot accommodate everybody.
Current state of Bangalore has been a mess on infra purely because of this last 10,
Because
15
the
years.
city, as much as your governments can plan, they can't envisage the number of people just exploded in the city, right? So any government, and like I said, I've been part of policy making before, and when I was in my law practice also, the seniors I used to work with, they were working with the electricity department, water department, etc., standing councils for them. You know, a state plans basis certain assumptions in a 10-year, 20-year, where what will be our demand from electricity, road, etc., and we plan. Bangalore just quadrupled in 10 years, right? So no matter what, a city cannot plan for it. Yes, probably they were wrong with their assumptions that this is what it is, but that is human, right? You really can't explore. Today,
Yes.
the way Bangaloreans sell Bangalore to people as such, that hey, weather is awesome, food is awesome, beer is awesome, shift here, etc. And people have just packed bags and
Yes,
shifted,
yes,
right? One of the highest migrated cities in India in some sense, right? So,
Yes.
so hence that is the planning which probably Bangalore lacks. But then point being that the whole smart cities and other things, the whole idea of government initiating those efforts is to create these 20, 30 mega cities
Yes.
as such, which will have the ability. So tier 2, tier 3 story is there. It's little risky as a call for one to take, but it's the risk to reward ratio one should take as such.
Let's understand a little bit of investment process in SM REIT versus fractional ownership.
Yeah.
How will the investment process in SM REIT differ from the current fractional ownership model?
See, so today we were in some sense doing all the market making, book building, collecting the funds, allocating securities, everything. As such, so everything was effectively done by us within our governed framework which we had rolled out and the systems which we had in general. Now it's moving towards public infrastructure in general. So when you say public infrastructure, you're talking about capital markets. So you can log into a Zerodha or whatever broker you work with and subscribe to those securities directly on the exchange. So it's
More accessible?
Far more accessible. While the ticket size is 10 lakhs right now, and I'm sure SEBI will bring it down. It'll make it ridiculously accessible to everyone to own, a square foot of a building effectively in some sense. But that is what is the benefit of SM REIT, because now you're governed by the public capital markets infrastructure vis-a-vis the private built by me as such, right? So that is the core differentiation as such. More easy rather, I would say. Number two, which is easier in some sense, we didn't accept foreign investors to invest capital. None of the institutional investors were wanting to put money, etc., because it was unregulated before as such. So, in the SM REIT world, it just opens to domestic institutional investors, foreign investors, anyone and everyone who can invest and own anything in capital markets has the ability to do it, right? So, just that the accessibility or the reach of people who can now look at potentially taking or taking a bite of this new asset class is now possible.
Let's discuss more about the impact of SEBI regulations on SM REIT. What are the three most significant impacts we anticipate from SEBI's regulation on SM REITs?
So,
top three.
Yeah, so one being access to larger capital pool. So that gives a flavor to more investors to come and take a ownership in this asset class, number one. Second, becomes a lever for developers to consider this also as an option vis-a-vis. So we are talking two segmentations of developers, right? One who has the ability to REIT out his portfolio, one who does not have the ability to REIT out because you don't have large institutional or banks ready to back them and build this up. So we're saying that can we be your new lever to new growth and compete with the larger developers with time or whatever. So this is another lever for more democratization of real estate, where it was probably getting exclusive to the 10 large developers in the country. Now probably the next 90 can come in and also compete on similar lands or similar tenant requirements, etc., which earlier they didn't have. So we can be their backup to capital. Third, one of the largest levers, which I feel, is India has money. It's just that it was probably not directed right way or channelized the right way. So I don't think so we need foreign funds to come and own all the real estate in India the way it is right now. If Indians can channelize the wealth through the SM REITs as it scales up over a period of time, there is a big playbook for us to retain our assets and not have half of Bangalore owned by all the funds of the world in general, right? So that's another large lever I foresee which can happen, that we can retain the wealth of India in India in some sense. Fourth, I really foresee is the whole financialization of real estate, which can now happen because a seller today or a developer would consider that, okay, I'm not giving it to some technology platform or to somebody who I have no idea will be sustained, because my brand name is also associated with you, but will see us SM REITs as an institutional tag for himself, so that he can up himself from a quality standard, from deliverable, from corporate governance and bunch of these standards, because there can be an institutional tag associated with him, which could have not been the case before, right? So when I say financialization, he might say, okay, I might not want to liquidate 100%, but I might want to liquidate some percentage. Can I use or partner with you to look at doing? Fifth lever, which is a very large lever, and I know you told three, I'm going to the fifth, is...
No, we'll be happy to know as many as
governments,
possible.
PSUs and all these things. You're in the business of running, let's say, a bank or a BHL into the business they are into. Why are you owning real estate? What is the need for you to own real estate, right? So can we consider doing a lot of sale and leasebacks with governments, with all these things? And we've been hearing they're lacking deposits already, and that's becoming a challenge because everybody wants to put money in mutual funds. I'm saying, can we be the lever for you to get back the liquidity instead of you blocking so much money and owning real estate, right? So it can be a lot of de-owning divestments which can happen through the SM REIT. So the impact can be significant, where liquidity can come in. And the similar analogy can be for companies also, right? That why am I owning my factory, doing it? Let's say I'm a pharma company and I'm putting sizable money in my plant and my building, land and building, vis-a-vis as a company which I'm into, let's say pharma, I should focus on R&D, supply chain better, hire better people or spend money on branding. So can SM REITs do that impact to them, that, hey, why don't you look at divesting your portfolio with us? We'll be the owners, and play this whole OpCo-PropCo approach, right? And the segmentation, while I'm saying factory, it can go to hospitals, it can go to schools, it can go to bunch of these sectors altogether, because there are people who want to own it and there are people who are owning it because they have no other option but to own it.
And they're getting heavy on their money, as you rightly mentioned, you know.
So they can channelize their money for better purposes. India generally lacks money in R&D investments and other things. So all this money can be channelized into something
more
better.
structured. You mean to say they can get more structured in the approach?
They'll have more faith that this is now a SEBI governed product. So you know, they're not here to or fly by night operators in general. So that might build a lot more confidence for people to do. So I think another year for us in the SM REIT world is equivalent to when I started business. It's education, year 1, year 2 foundation, year 3 onwards is when you'll start seeing scale being built in the SM REIT world.
Correct. Let's speak more about the future of Strata. Okay, looking ahead, how does Strata plan to continue evolving and staying ahead in SM REITs?
See, so technology has been one of our cores, which has allowed us to scale the kind of tech infrastructure we built, which allows us to really scale things, map things. We don't have an army of people working. We are a very lean 60-65 people team, comparatively operating. So we've been focusing on that. So that is going to be the edge which will be there, which we'll want to keep maintaining. And I think we have a far bigger leap than anybody else in the market with respect to technology in general as such. So that's number one. Second, I think we've been blessed by having right stakeholders who have been invested with us. You know, so the idea is to how can we leverage now with the right stakeholders and the right regulations around to scale this up and make this very, very large. So that's how I believe we will continue staying ahead. But also it's about being agile, trying to understand what the seller wants and what your investor wants and trying to find a bridge as such, because at the end of the day we are more an intermediary between a buyer and a seller vis-a-vis through our platform, or in the SM REITs also, where I'm also a buyer but at the same time I'm also representing the seller who wants to liquidate his 95% apart from the 5% which I'll be putting in, right? So it's a mix of both. The another thing which I believe which we've stayed ahead in general, I mean again I've been very blessed to have a kick-ass team at the back end who are very proactive. We think of what can possibly happen 2 years later, start planning for it today. Whether it's a tenant leaving out or problems in the utilities of the building for that matter, how can we spruce it up today itself so that we can either replace it or extend the life of the thing. So bunch of these things, you know, we've proactively done, even including meeting our tenants every month, every quarter, checking what's your requirement further, can we fulfill your requirements across, so that if they're looking at expanding, let's say in another market, can we be your only partners as such, right? Why you want to go to one Mr. Reddy in Hyderabad, one Mr. Sharma in Delhi, be Strata across,
Yes.
so you have an institutional experience altogether, right? So I think these elements revolving around my team is probably one of the core reasons why we'll always stay ahead of the curve.
Great. I mean, one of the discussions, I mean, in between you mentioned that we already have about 3,000 to 4,000 investor base. When can we look at having 100,000 customer base at Strata? Do you have a vision, or do you feel, okay, this is my target, I need this set of people?
See, our
could be more, but that's what.
Yeah, of course. So our 2030 target is to, let's say, have $5 billion in a year for us, right? Realistic target. Aspirational will be put another zero to it, but having said that, that's a most realistic target we feel we can achieve, because we could not do a lot of the things today because of the limitations we had with the SPV structure, number of shareholders you could have, etc. Because the ticket size, the rationale for having a 25 lakh ticket size is because I cannot have more than 200 shareholders.
200 shareholders.
And a good, decent property is 40-50 crores today. So hence the 25 lakh was the ticket size. So if the regulator does bring the ticket size, let's say to 50,000 or 2 lakh rupees, the way we envision a regulator would consider, I think a 1 lakh customer is 2027 tops. You will foresee having, provided the ticket size gets lowered and more accessibility happens to everybody else. But that's not the target we are after, right? The target is we want 1 million investors buying SM REIT in general as a thing, and that is our 2030 plan, that, you know, focus on creating that large AUM, focus on creating that large ecosystem. And to stay ahead of the curve, sometimes it's also about leveraging your own investors, saying that how can we work together as an ecosystem to benefit us together as such, right? So that definitely helps as you move forward.
Great. One last question. PropShare already has their first SM REIT. When can we see Strata's first SM REIT?
So we made our application. We consciously decided not to be the first.
Okay.
We wanted to go through the whole exercise, understand the nuances before buying into it. So we spent enough time, understood every nuances of the regulation. Just jumping in because the regulation exists, is probably a good call, bad call, whatever. But our approach is because we manage large capital today. We have a 60% market share in the business right now, so we have a lot of accountability. So just jumping in was not the thing, but understanding every nuances. How can we be tax efficient? How can it happen? And continuously keep giving constant feedback to the regulator that you have to think through these aspects because my investors will be paid because of that, right? So when we got a lot of clarity on all the aspects and the regulator, that's when the FAQ then came out because we wanted all those FAQs. We wanted answers for everything rather than just aiming in the dark assets. So we applied for our registration. We got our trust deed registered, and the license should come in another week or so. So mid-October, in our view, we should have a license. Again, we never wanted to be the first to roll out our first things because the first technically becomes an example. They have to go through those things because even for a regulator, it's new, right? So they are also figuring out how to make life easy for everybody in the entire ecosystem. So the first unfortunately goes through a lot. The second, it becomes easy for it. So we are clear we don't have the bandwidth. We rather spend our bandwidth to figure out how do we make our lives of our investors more easier from a transitioning migration standpoint, which none of the players have been really thinking on as such from the whole migration of existing portfolio, etc. People are just focusing on knew what to do. You can build a large platform only when you take care of what has been built, number one, and prepare yourself for the other one rather than just jumping and then figuring out the way. As such, that's our approach, and that's going to be constant to our thought process always.
Just to add on this, recent IPOs, Bajaj Housing, there was crazy excitement over subscription and thing. Do you see a similar kind of interest with the individual investors or the institutional investors when a lot of SM REITs come out on market?
So like I said, first year is education phase, second year is foundation, third year is when you'll scale up. Maybe things can get accelerated faster. 6 months to a year can be education and then acceleration stage can happen. So the whole frenzy of subscription happens today in Strata already.
Okay.
There are times where, in fact, last year we had an asset which got subscribed in 58 seconds.
Wow.
And it was a 42 crore asset. So you can understand, and I have the record to show as well that for literally every second we had 1.5 crore sitting in or 1 crore commitments which we received, right? And this is again a small sect of audience who knows about us. We don't have to go and market to India because I don't have that kind of inventory available to subscribe also, right? So in public markets you will see that. In fact, there was this very funny conversation I had with one of the guys who advised the regulator. I'm saying that, they said that when you're rolling out a new SM REIT, you have to stay open for 3 days for subscription, which is how IPOs are.
Yes.
Right? The way we operate, the minute we are 100% subscribed, we say thank you. We're not accepting any further. But the public markets don't work that way.
Don't work that way.
Give allotment and then it can be on thing, right? So we said 3 days is too large a time sometimes and can be too short a time also.
Yes.
Right? If
vis-a-vis, I mean, both
ways, if a good asset doesn't get subscribed or a bad asset doesn't get subscribed, you never know what happens, right? Based on market timing situation altogether. I said if it gets subscribed, let's say I bring out the coffee day building.
Yes.
To do.
Yes.
Everybody in India wants to own the coffee day building.
Correct. Iconic building, yeah. I mean,
and they know you can't go wrong in that building. Yes. Right? Leasing will never be a problem. Yes. It's in the heart of the city. You'll always keep appreciating, etc., etc. I said people might just invest to get IPO gains and exit. Correct? Because if imagine a 200 crore property, I get 2000 crore subscription. IPO will just double, but the property price hasn't doubled. Right?
It hasn't doubled.
How do I capture that? The person was very candid and said that's not your problem. The asset you set out your NAVs. If people are still willing to pay a premium to own it, that's their problem or their call at the end of the day. You are not, because I said that if tomorrow somebody buys at 400 crore value and the price eventually starts coming down to 220 whatever, people say, oh, I invested with the Strata SM REIT, I have incurred a loss. they won't say we invested in that property and incurred a loss, right? And
Correct.
it happened with the embassy.
Yes.
When embassy REIT rolled out, there was this frenzy, right? At 300, they went up to 480 rupees and then they crashed down to 300. But the NAV was 300 only, no, at that point of time. 300 or 320, whatever.
Correct.
They were pretty much.
It was the market volatility, it went up.
So you can foresee good assets having that where people can invest only for IPO gains also at times.
A lot of people do that. Like I had a similar ideology, I mean, let me put money and make money and exit. But if everyone start thinking that way, obviously your prices would crash and things like that.
But it's not the true value of the asset, right?
Yes.
Or the true value of what Strata SM REIT would do eventually in life, right? So that is education again required, that hey, this is the value of the asset. If you're ready to pay a premium and hold for 10 years, it makes sense. Intention is I want to flip and make money, or this is a 21 din mein paisa double scheme. Unfortunately,
No, not possible at all.
Not in the SM REIT segment. Probably consider Bajaj IPO even now, not the SM
I mean,
REITs.
we are seeing, I think last 1 week, the prices are eventually for various reasons, market reasons. But on a long run, I see a huge jump there as well.
Yeah.
So it's going to be the same as you told. I mean, real estate assets have always been a long lasting kind of, if you invest and hold it for a long period of time is where you see a huge gain. I think that should be the...
So it goes back to the whole compounding philosophies in general. Like I was very candidly telling one of the investors that when did you buy a house? He says I bought it in 2000 for 50 lakhs. It's 5 crores today. I said it's 5 crores in 20 years.
Yes.
Because you decided not to sell.
If you would have sold...
If you sold, you exited at a crore, maybe 1.5 crores or 2 crores, right? For that matter. So real estate is a thing where compounding starts.
Correct.
After 10 years.
Yes.
Not in a 5-year or a 7-year mindset. While we tell everyone today, as such that if you don't have a 5-7-year mindset, probably don't invest. They are not meritorious at all for you to do it. But the real deal is 10 years and beyond.
Yes.
Is where you see the massive compounding happening to your thing, and where you can go take मैंने 10 lakh डाला 1 crore हो गया, whatever, right? So that will happen if you stick around longer.
Great. I mean, thank you very much, Sudharshan. I think most of the people had seen you in a lot of public forums and a lot of media houses speaking about how Strata works, what happens, what is fractional and things. But this side of whatever we discussed today, I'm sure they are going to get excited about it. A lot of knowledge they are going to gain about it. Trust building factor. So thank you very much once again to be part of ReTalk podcast. Our aim at ReTalk is also to educate people, give more information to people, build a lot of real estate enthusiasts. So thank you and happy once again.
No, thank you for having me. Excited about the whole SM REIT and how it can pay out.
Yes.
Maybe we'll do another session.
Sure, we should do more of a masterclass kind of a concept where people go chapter wise in terms of understanding what it is, because given the limitation on time, we could only get few details, but I'm sure there's so much in you which is already boiling inside to come out. So a masterclass would be fantastic to take it
More
forward.
than happy to for all your viewers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again.